Welcome back, Beaver Nation, to another edition of the Beaver Sports Show. Alongside me again tonight is Nick Charbonnier, and I'm Boon Kruger. Well, it was another tough matchup for the Oregon State football team this past weekend as the Stanford Cardinal came to Research Stadium. Coming up, we'll have highlights of the game, and we will break down what the Beavers need to do to get a win this weekend against the California Golden Bears.
And the men's basketball team had their first game of the season, albeit an exhibition game, against Pacific at Gill Coliseum on Friday.
And the women's soccer team is headed to the postseason once again as they wrapped up their regular season this past Friday in the Civil War matchup against the Oregon Ducks. You're watching the Beaver Sports Show on KBVR. Stay tuned.
From the KBVR TV studio on the campus of Oregon State University, this is the Beaver Sports Show.
The Oregon State football team was back in action this past Saturday in Research Stadium as the undefeated and then fourth-ranked Stanford Cardinal came to Corvallis. Stanford didn't need much luck as they ran for over 300 yards in their 38-13 victory over the Beavs. After a scoreless first quarter in which both teams struggled to generate much offense, the Stanford Cardinal took a 14-0 lead after a 2-yard run from Stanford running back Jeremy Stewart. The Cardinal then got on the board again at the 7:51 mark when Andrew Luck connected with Griff Whalen for a 17-yard touchdown pass. Oregon State wasn't going to give up easily as the Beavers answered with a 5-play 66-yard drive, including this 31-yard reception by James Rogers from Sean Mannion. Two plays later, Mannion would find Rogers again for a 15-yard scoring play. Rogers finished the game with 6 receptions for 77 yards and 1 touchdown. Rogers now has 212 career receptions, which places him third on OSU's all-time list. Then on the next drive, Oregon State cornerback Jordan Poyer made an aggressive hit on Stanford wide receiver Chris Owusu that was ruled an illegal helmet-to-helmet hit, thus taking away his fumble return for a touchdown that would have tied the score at 14-14.
You know, I didn't mean to take him out of the game like that. You know, I told him he's one of the best in the country, and I told him I was sorry.
Was he responding at that point?
He gave a thumbs up. You know, I didn't really listen for a response. You know, I just wanted to let him know how I felt about it.
Like Coach Shaw said something to you too right after that play.
He just told me to keep playing. You know, he said it's a game of football. He just said keep playing football.
After a Malcolm Agnew 2-yard touchdown run, Stanford once again marched down the field with Andrew Luck leading the way as he connected with Stephon Taylor for a 27-yard touchdown to make the score 24-13. On the following drive, Sean Mannion would fumble the ball after getting sacked from behind by Chase Thomas. The Cardinal recovered, and 3 plays and 24 yards later, Stanford was on the board again as Luck found tight end Kobe Fleener for the 14-yard touchdown.
We blew opportunity in the first half. Maybe even if we didn't score points, we could have done more with field position. Our defense got some stops, and you know they just missed on a couple of long passes, but we did get some stops. But we didn't do anything. We had a couple of 3-and-outs, so we never took off after them early. We got going a little bit better later on, but. We had our shot. We didn't finish.
I mean, we know we can be better than that, and we're going to work hard to become better than that. And you know, there was some good stuff, but we just gotta become a better team, and we're going to work hard this week and every week the rest of the season to become a better team.
Oh, we still got to keep working. We still want to win next week's game. That's the only thing we're thinking about right now. We're not thinking about bowl games, not being bowl eligible. that wasn't our goal. You know, we wanted to win one game at a time. You know, we knew, you know, it wasn't going to happen all at once, so you got to take it one game at a time. So we need to keep working. We're going to watch film tomorrow and keep working this week, try to win next week.
Well, it's certainly a disappointing loss for Oregon State as their record dropped to 2-7 and 2-4 in Pac-12 conference play with their 38-13 loss to the third-ranked Stanford Cardinal. But joining us tonight from KBVR FM and Against the Spread, which can be heard on Fridays 2 to 4, is Alex Crawford. Alex, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing real good, Boon. I'm ready to talk some football. Excited to be back on the show. Thanks for having me. I guess I did good enough last week on my audition, so thank you very much.
Well, we're happy to have you back on.
Yes.
You know, what were you guys' thoughts of the game? Nick, let's start with you.
Well, the first thing is our run game was a fraction of theirs. That really brought us down. The second thing is, you know, I know we had some pretty bad calls. The first one being on Jordan Poyer. I was in the stands. I know how it affected both the team and the fans. But I really don't think that had the calls been in our favor, it would have provided game-changing momentum.
Yeah, definitely a very good point. Stanford being, you know, 9-0 after this game, one of the best teams in the country. You can easily say that. But Alex, what was your impression on the game?
Well, I think the Beavers looked, 10 times better than they did the week before against Utah, despite what the score may indicate. We did lose by 25, unfortunately, but we were in this game for a while, and I was impressed with the Beaver team. And I started to feel some magic brewing in Reser Stadium, some USC a la 2008, 2006. I thought we were ready for that signature Beaver upset. Unfortunately, there was two big calls by the officials and this shouldn't happen, but the officials changed the outcome of the game with their calls. One was that but the illegal hit from Jordan Poyer, which, maybe was illegal, maybe it wasn't. That's a whole nother show altogether. Also, that big holding call on third down early in the third quarter, that hurt us a lot. That swung the momentum. We couldn't get the crowd behind us. The Beaver team couldn't get that momentum they needed. Third thing was Mike Riley's, I'm sorry to say this, but his mismanagement of the clock there at the end of the second half. We maybe had a chance to get, at the very least, a field goal, which we did have a field goal tried, but, we could have had an easier field goal try, possibly a couple shots at the end zone there. But he just, for a veteran coach, did not manage the clock like you would expect a veteran coach to manage the clock.
Yeah, definitely a lot of people in the stadium, thought that was a very head-scratcher move by Mike Riley at the end of the first half. They had 2 timeouts left, were in field goal range, and then tried to hurry it up and got the playoff late, and there was a false start, which pushed the Beavers back. And then Trevor Romaine's 50-yard field goal was blocked to end the first half. But, to me, one of the biggest keys in the OSU loss and what's been a problem all season for Oregon State, minus really Sacramento State and the Arizona game and the Washington State game, is the lack of running game for OSU. They only had 33 yards net rushing, while Stanford had 300 yards. And Marcus Sweeten was the leading rusher for Oregon State. The wide receiver is your leading rusher, and he only had 19 yards rushing. This has been a problem all year for Oregon State. Alex, where can the Beavers go? How can the Beavers improve upon this?
Well, the talent is there in the backfield. We've seen what Malcolm Agnew's done in the Sacramento State game, although obviously a much weaker opponent, still put up a huge game. I think Teron Ward's the real deal. We can see Jordy Jenkins catching passes out of the backfield. Jovan Stevenson shows what he can do in the Arizona game. So I don't think it's a lack of talent in the backfield. I think possibly it's, maybe the running backs aren't getting enough touches. Maybe that falls on Danny Langsdorf. I also think that it's a little bit of the offensive line's fault. Not that I'm saying, it's them to blame, but Grant Johnson was injured in this game. He's a huge part of that offensive line. Stanford's defense is just physical. They're a big defense, and when your offensive line is already undersized to begin with, and then you're dealing with injuries, it's really going to be hard to get a running game going.
Yeah, definitely. And since they have struggled so much of this season going into Stanford, it probably was unreasonable to expect a solid running game from Oregon State, and they certainly did not have that. Malcolm Agnew only had 15 yards on 8 carries. Part of the problem, though, may be that they're not giving him the ball enough. Only 8 carries, and, it was a very close game for much of the first 2.5 quarters before Stanford was able to take a 24-13 lead with just under 3 minutes left in the third quarter. There's opportunities for him to get the ball and other running backs to get the ball.
Yeah, you come out and you pass on first down, you pass on second down. Well, shoot, you're not going to run the ball on third down at that point. So I do think that they need to get at least one solid run play in every offensive series. Get one, the offensive line used to run blocking, and 2, just get that running back touches. Running backs need touches. So.
the quarterback play of Sean Mannion, he wasn't spectacular, but he also didn't really hurt the team. No interceptions, passed for 252 yards. He was sacked, though, 3 times. Do you think he's regressing a little bit in the fact, he's holding on to the ball a little bit longer than he was earlier in the season?
Mannion has been so hot or cold, it's hard to tell. When it came out in the first quarter there for Oregon State, he honestly looked like a high school quarterback. He did not look good. Second quarter, start gaining some momentum. He's looking real good. Third quarter looking good. And then towards the end of the third, fourth quarter, once again, starting to look real bad, getting sacked, holding onto the ball way too long. I think it was late third quarter, early fourth. He was sacked 2 plays in a row, real bad sacks. So for him, I think it's just a really steep learning curve. I wouldn't go as far as to say he's been regressing. I think overall his play has improved, but I think he's just too inexperienced to be consistent right now. He's just too inexperienced.
And we should say that the play of Sean Mannion as a first-year starting quarterback has been very well if you compare him to past first-year starting quarterbacks such as Matt Moore and Derek Anderson. The play of the OSU defense, Stanford had the ball for over 40 minutes, which is part of the reason why Stanford's statistics offensively were so amazing. 300 yards rushing, 207 yards passing, 10 for 15 on third down conversions, 5 for 5 in the red zone. Is this just a matter of Stanford being such a great offense that really the OSU defense was overmatched, or were there plays to be made for the Beaver defense?
I think the Beaver defense, they surprised me a lot. You saw Lance Mitchell, who's been hobbled by injuries throughout the season, making a lot of big plays. That's what you expect out of him. Obviously dealt with injuries, but thumbs up to him. Stock up Lance Mitchell. Also, Rashad Reynolds, a guy who, thrown into the starting role, really struggled throughout the early part of the season. I saw him making a few plays in that game. I was impressed. So the Beaver defense, they impressed me for 2.5 quarters. And then I think we saw the Beaver defense we expected to see there late third quarter, early fourth, playing against an offense like Stanford's, pretty much an NFL offense out there. Efficient, effective. Andrew Luck is a surgeon. He'll carve you up out there. So, you couldn't expect a great day out of the Beaver defense. I would say I was impressed by their play.
Yeah, Stanford has an amazing stat where they've scored 100% of the time in the red zone, which is just unheard of in college football. And I think 47 times they've reached the red zone and scored every single time. But moving on to this week's game, Oregon State heads to the Bay Area to play California at AT&T Park. Kickoff is set for 3:36 p.m. on Root Sports. This is the last out-of-state trip for the Oregon State this season. Last year's game, the Beavers won 35-7. What are the keys for Oregon State to compete in this game?
Well, one thing's for sure, Mike Riley has Jeff Tedford's number. Mike Riley knows how to beat this Cal team. I think the key for Oregon State is to build off, and this is weird to say, but build off the momentum of this Stanford game. Although they didn't win, they did do a lot of things right for a while in that game. So I think if you build off that, and we say this every week, establish a run game, establish a run game. Well, in the games where they've established a run game, they've won. Washington State, Arizona, Utah, no run game. Stanford, no run game. Losses. So you got to establish that run game. Mannion's got to not throw any interceptions, not get sacked too many times. So I think mainly it's just build off, do the things you did right against Stanford and do them against Cal and keep doing that.
Nick, what are your keys for the OSU game?
Well, I think that we need to see the same kind of defense and offense that we saw in the Stanford game the first half. So I really think that if Mannion keeps up and does well, then I think we'll do okay. And establishing a run game, of course. So.
Yeah, I think the Beavers, they need to establish consistency on offense. Looking back to the WSU game, they were amazing. They scored on 8 out of their 10 drives. They were balanced on both sides, passing and running. Make third down manageable. That's going to be a key going into the Cal game. And then also defensive pressure. They're going to have to stop the California running game. Cal has some very good running backs. And put pressure on their quarterback, Zach Maynard. But do you guys have, I guess, a key player that OSU needs to have on offense and defense to have a big game to kind of ignite OSU?
I'm going to go with just the offensive line. They've been hot or cold this season. They've struggled a lot. Other times they've opened up big holes for our running back. So I think it's going to really be on the offensive line. Cal comes in here, real tough run defense, just a strong defense overall. Oregon State's been playing, the gauntlet of Pac-12 defenses. Utah's got a good defense. Stanford's got a great defense. And Cal is right there, I believe, number 2 defense in the Pac-12. Am I correct in that? So it's going to be on the offensive line to open up some holes for Agnew, Teron Ward, etc.
Sure.
Yeah, I would say James Rogers. He's kind of been quiet all season. He's so close to breaking the OSU record for career receptions. He's currently at 3rd, only a couple away from James Newsom and Mike Cass. So I'd look for him to have a big breakout game, maybe running the fly sweep and catching passes.
James Rogers started to look a lot more like the James Rogers of last year against Stanford, making plays, running that fly sweep effectively, breaking tackles, run after catch. So he's starting to look more like the James Rogers we're used to seeing, and I think he can build on that. I think that's a great call with James Rogers there. All
right, well, predictions for the games then.
I think if we play the same way that we played the first half and against other games that we've done well at, I think we can come out with a win. I'm going to say 21-14.
All right.
Yeah, this is tough. I have been off in my predictions this season, to say the least. But I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to chug that orange Kool-Aid. I'm going to predict a Beaver win, and I'm going to go with Beavers 33, California 27. I think it's a good game, but I think the Beavers pull it out, get a much-needed moral victory as well as a real victory.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that would be certainly great to see. Well, thank you, Alex, for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
You can catch Alex on KBVR FM on Against the Spread on Fridays from 2 to 4. Stay tuned for more of the Beaver Sports Show when we come back from this commercial break.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Oregon State Beaver.
The men's basketball team tipped off the season with an exhibition game against the Pacific Boxers. In a dominating performance, the Beavs jumped out to a 19-2 lead and forced 22 turnovers while holding the Boxers to a 25% shooting percentage from the field. With highlights from Oregon State's 64-33 win, here is Sports Show reporter Joel Adler.
The Oregon State Beavers entered Gill Coliseum Friday night to face the Pacific University Boxers in an exhibition match before the start of the season. With the strong defense, Pacific only made 3 field goals in the first half compared to Oregon State's 13. The Beavers put pressure on the Boxers, forcing many turnovers that Oregon State capitalized on. With a dominating score of 33-9 at the half, the Beavers continued to play well in the second half. They showed their teamwork by making a total of 20 assists throughout the game.
20 assists. That speaks to a couple of things. That speaks to execution. It speaks to chemistry, is really what it speaks to.
Despite the Beavers missing many free throws, they took a commanding lead to win the game 64-33.
The foul shots, which I'm completely surprised by. We've probably been shooting between 72 and 78% in practice. So we get out in the games. I'm sure that's jitters, but that's got to go up.
Oregon State will face California State University Bakersfield in their season opener this Saturday in Corvallis.
Going into the next games, you just got to focusing on the offensive part of our game, and defense is gonna come. We just really basically just touching on the man-to-man. So, a little more work, we'll be up there.
Thanks, Joel. The men's basketball team will be back in action this Saturday at Gill Coliseum as they open the regular season with a game against Cal State Bakersfield. Tip-off is set for 1:30 p.m. The 21st ranked Oregon State women's soccer team closed out their regular season at Paul Lorentz Field with a hotly contested Civil War match against the Oregon Ducks. With more on Friday's match, here is Sports Show reporter Amanda Caraway.
Thanks, guys. I'm here on senior night to try and watch the Beavers win their last regular season home game of the year. Let's see if they can do it against the Oregon Ducks.
The Beavers would strike first in the 14th minute with a goal by Chelsea Buckland off a free kick by J.C. Drobny. Oregon would get a good chance off a corner kick, but keeper Colleen Boyd makes a great save before the ball would eventually go over the crossbar. Oregon would add a goal by Bree Pugh in the 19th minute off a miscommunication by the OSU defense at the top of the box. But the defense would bounce back as Ashley Seal would stop an Oregon offensive attack. OSU almost had a goal in the start of the second half as the ball deflects and barely goes wide of the goalpost. OSU would get a good cross in the box, but the Duck keeper is there to scoop it up. The Beavs outshot the Ducks 8-5 in the second half due to good offense like this by Ashley Seal and Jenna Richardson. The Beavers would miss another shot just wide of the goal. Late in the game, OSU would get a free kick just outside the box, but it would be brilliantly saved by the Oregon keeper. Early in the first overtime, Jenna Richardson would have a good shot that would hit the goalpost and just go wide of the goal. The Beavs would get another corner kick in overtime and unfortunately headed over the crossbar once again. Late in the second overtime, Colleen Boyd would come up with a huge save off a close Oregon free kick.
And after a hard-fought match, the Beavers tied with the Ducks 1-1 in double overtime. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Amanda. After tying the Ducks last Friday, the Beavers had to wait to see where they would be placed in the 2011 NCAA Division I Women's Soccer Tournament. With more on where the women will be playing, here's Sports Show reporter Nicole Ramsey.
The Oregon State women's soccer team anxiously tuned in to the NCAA Women's College Cup selection show to find out what was next for this year's team. After finishing the regular season on November 4th, the Lady Beavs took aim at their next opponent, the Portland Pilots. Selection into the NCAA tournament marks another great moment in this season for this year's team. This is the first time in school history that women's soccer has appeared in the tournament for 3 years in a row. Even more exciting, the Beavers will be playing host. Seniors Colleen Boyd, Brittany Galindo, Ashley Seal, Ashley Folsom, and Melinda Ingalls will get another chance to play in front of fans at Paul Lorenz Field when play begins on Friday. The time of the match has been set for 7 p.m. Oregon State head coach Linus Road guarantees it will be anything but a boring game. The Beavs have already competed against the Pilots earlier this year and lost in a heartbreaker in overtime. Hungry for a payback victory, Coach Road said, "We will see some high-level soccer, and I think it is going to be a game that everyone will remember." If the Beavers win against Portland this Friday, they could potentially meet the Florida State Seminoles, who also defeated OSU earlier this season. We wish the best of luck to the women's soccer as they look to nab not one, but 2 payback victories in this year's NCAA tournament.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Meigs, and I'm a junior midfielder on the Oregon State women's soccer team. We're going to take a look at what the midfielders think about hosting the first round of the NCAA tournament.
Hi, I'm Megan Miller, and I'm a midfielder on the Oregon State women's soccer team.
My name is Melinda Ingalls, and I am a midfielder on the Oregon State women's soccer team.
Hi, my name is Erin Uchas. I'm a midfielder at Oregon State.
My name is Morgan Kennedy, and I'm a midfielder at Oregon State.
My name is Natalie Meigs, and I'm a midfielder at Oregon State.
My name is Stacey Dromney, and I'm a midfielder at Oregon State.
My name is Justine Freud, and I'm a midfielder on Oregon State.
My name is Brittany Olchar, and I'm a midfielder at Oregon State.
It's just minutes around the corner, and the anxiety keeps building and building, and soon, we're going to find out where we're going, what we're doing, and it'll be a big celebration up in here.
So we get another shot at Portland, and our first game's at home in front of all our fans.
Earlier in the season when we played them, we definitely could have beat them, but we just didn't pull through, and now we're hosting them at our place with our fans, and it's going to be 10 times better because we're going to win.
I think they said 3 years in a row is another history moment here at Oregon State.
Oh, we did!
So that's all you guys do is keep making history, so that's great. The other thing about it is, get another chance at the Pilots, right? At our place.
Let's go. Bees up 3, 1, 2, 3! Bees! Woo!
The Oregon State women's basketball team opened up their 2011 season this past Tuesday against Pacific at Gill Coliseum in an exhibition game. OSU head coach Scott Rueck enters his second season as the Beavers coach. With a strong nucleus of returning players, including 4 starters, the Beavers hope to improve upon last year's 9-21 record. With more on Tuesday's game, here is Sports Show reporter Amanda Caraway.
Pacific three-pointer scored by Annette Hiley was their only lead of the game early in the first half. From that point, the Beavers took over. Allie Gibson scored a team-leading 18 points, with a third of those points coming from behind the arc. She also led the team in steals with 5 on the night. Jenna Dixon came off the bench and scored 7 and had 2 steals that helped contribute to the Beavers' 34 points off turnovers. Sajan Dendy was perfect from three-point land. and also had 5 assists. Alicia Marshbanks was a force on defense. She had a block, 2 steals, and grabbed 7 boards. Marshbanks also helped out on the other side of the ball and had 7 assists. Patricia Bright shot 100% from the field and also had 2 blocks. Alyssa Martin scored 12 points, had 4 assists, and 3 steals on the way to victory. Coach Scott Ruick, Allie Gibson, and Sagen Dindy had this to say after the game.
Battling, that's what we want. We talk about playing at the same level all the time, at a high level, and never dipping, no matter, not letting the circumstances impact how we play, our level of intensity and our execution. And I thought tonight we did that. I thought we stayed at that level all night long. And it was really fun just to get out and be on the court in front of people, and get to see some of our new people just get comfortable out there. And I thought that happened as the game wore on.
It was really exciting. I was really excited to play, and the leaders on the team made me comfortable. And once I got on the court, I just felt really comfortable in the offense, and they were really supportive.
After talking to people after the game, the word chemistry kept coming up, and really the best thing that we that we have naturally is just the chemistry between us. We love playing with each other, and when we were consistent tonight, everybody really got to see how much we love playing with each other. That's really, I think, our biggest strength right now. And like Coach said, when we weren't getting rattled, when we were dictating what they were doing, you saw how strong our zone can be and how much we're looking to try and push the ball. And hopefully that'll kind of become part of our identity.
And after a convincing performance, the Beavers won their first regular home game of the season. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Amanda. This past weekend, the Oregon State women's volleyball team traveled to the Grand Canyon State to take on the Arizona Wildcats and the Arizona State Sun Devils in Pac-12 conference play. With more on the volleyball team's trip, here's Sports Show reporter Ashley Bett-Malik.
The women's volleyball team traveled to the desert this past weekend, taking on the University of Arizona Wildcats on Friday, November 5th, and the Arizona State Sun Devils on Saturday, November 6th. The Lady Beavs went into Friday's match 14-10 and 6-8 in the Pac-12 conference, taking on the Wildcats, who were 14-9 and 6-8 in the Pac-12 conference as well. The Beavers fell to the Wildcats in just 3 matches, 25-20, 25-16, and 25-17. Although this was a tough loss, junior Camille Saxton and senior Dre Shaw both recorded double-digit kills with 10 apiece. Megan McBride had 28 of the team's 33 assists, and Becky Defoe played a strong role in the backcourt's defense with 13 digs, followed by Megan McBride with 7. Saturday's match was also very disappointing for Beaver Nation, as the Lady Beavs lost in 3 matches once again to Arizona State, who was only 6-19 and 2-14 in the Pac-12 conference. Senior Dre Shaw led the team with 12 kills, and freshman Erica Nassar had a solid game as she recorded 9 kills. Rogers, Enelico, Mommer, and McBride each had 1 block, while Megan McBride had 22 assists. Becky Defoe had a team high of 17 digs. Although the Beavers played hard against the Arizona schools, it just wasn't enough. The Lady Beavs, who now stand 14-12 overall and 6-10 in the Pac-12 conference play, will host the USC Trojans and UCLA Bruins November 11th and 13th at 7 p.m. in Gill Coliseum.
Well, that's all the time we have for you tonight. And on behalf of Nick Charbonnier and everyone here at the Beaver Sports Show, I'm Boon Kruger. Hope you have a great night, and we'll see you back here next week.